Developing today, did Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and were they gullible enough to fall into it?
So here's a bombshell theory that's got everyone talking. Did Buckingham Palace, possibly with Prince William's help, set a trap for Harry and Meghan? According to Tom Sykes from the Daily Beast, who runs The Royalist, and Newsweek's Jack Royston, someone who's previously been sympathetic to the Sussexes, the answer might be yes. Here's how it supposedly went down. Harry had a private meeting with King Charles. Then, out of nowhere, US Weekly ran a glowing piece about this emotional reunion, complete with details of Harry tearing up, hugs all around, and a big Hollywood ending moment.
That is the claim from Tom Sykes of The Royalist, who has suggested in conversation with Jack Royston, the royal editor for Newsweek magazine, who has been a close ally of Harry and Meghan in the past, that actually William was working in conjunction with Buckingham Palace, almost attempting to spark this reaction from Harry, which came with that bombshell statement on Saturday night and then the briefing to the Mail on Sunday, blaming the so-called men in grey suits and, in effect, ending any hopes of reconciliation between King Charles and Prince Harry. So we're going to get reaction on this from Prince Harry's biographer and our royal mastermind, Angela Levin, in just one moment. But first, I want to show you both sides of this. So this is Tom Sykes, who is the European editor-at-large for the Daily Beast, but also runs the brilliant Royalist Substack, in conversation with Jack Royston of Newsweek, putting forward this bombshell theory.
Actually, on Saturday night, I said, and I think I messaged you actually, and said, I feel like they've set a trap for Harry and he just walked into it. And I really think that's exactly what happened. I think because then the palace came out on last night, on Sunday, saying, well, you know, again, unnamed sources, well, this just proves that Harry can't be trusted. You know, he's used the meeting to escalate tensions again. He's, you know, and I felt it was really an odd decision of Harry to rise to the bait.
Feels a little bit like that classic kind of restraint collapse that we see from Harry sometimes. Like, for example, in May when he kind of, you know, he lost his lawsuit over his police protection, and he gave that interview to the BBC where he said, you know, his father won't speak to him anymore. And, you know, he said he wanted reconciliation, but in the same interview said various other things that kind of undermined the chances that he would get it. And so, yeah, it feels again like a little bit of restraint collapse, that he, I think, had seen all of these stories in the paper, and we know he hates to see these quotes from sources, and he's always going to set this little spiral in his own mind going about, well, who was it? Was it this person? Was it that person? Why did they say this? What, you know, and you can almost see in reading through stuff, you can almost imagine, you know, Harry's own thoughts about all of this. You know, my understanding is that, you know, he was very happy to see his father, and, you know, he didn't have this kind of feeling that he'd been, you know, given the cold shoulder or whatever. You know, there is a small part of me that wonders whether, you know, maybe somebody in the palace just saw the Us Weekly thing, thought it was a load of old nonsense and that nobody cried and it wasn't this big lovey-dovey California thing, and wanted to set the record straight on that, and just partly just blundered into Harry's, you know, lifelong hatred of leaks to the media. But then it's that pattern of escalation that we've seen so many times before that has wrecked the chances of peace within this relationship so many times before. I think there's perhaps a feeling on Harry's side and on such side that he shouldn't be expected to just be, you know, a sponge, or like to be infinitely capable of soaking up an endless number of stories that he finds hurtful. That, you know, at some point he has to kind of show that he will stand his ground and defend himself over something. But the real test is really what happens now, you know, is especially if there is a kind of, if there was a desire to wreck the prospects of peace, will it be successful, you know?
Okay, so I've got a lot to say about this, because Jack Royston is saying there Harry has this lifelong hatred of leaks to the press. But in the same breath, he's talking about the Us Weekly article. And the Us Weekly article could only have been briefed by Montecito. You will remember I have been very, very clear that Harry and Meghan have set up this relationship with the new editor of Us Weekly, Dan Wakeford. He was previously the editor of People magazine. He wants to almost steal Harry and Meghan from People magazine and become the main propagandist for Harry and Meghan in the US. And that article made it abundantly clear that it was briefed via Harry and Meghan and that this meeting was so wonderful and full of tears and highly emotional. And of course, that briefing very much did upset people from the palace because it just wasn't true.
The problem? Palace insiders say it never happened like that. So Buckingham Palace, and maybe William's office, allegedly planted a counter-story in the Sun. That story painted Harry as naive, overreacting, and leaking false details to the press. The end result? Harry looked hot-headed and unreliable. Cue the palace shrug. See? This is why we can't trust him.
But at the end of the day, Harry is the one that is the hot-head loser who does keep on escalating things. Now, in the next part of this conversation, there is a suggestion, though, and you'll see it's subtle, so listen carefully, that it was Prince William who briefed the true information about the meeting to the Sun newspaper. Now, of course, we know that William and Catherine have a close relationship with the Sun. Watch this.
In wrecking.
Who could you possibly be thinking of, Tom? I can't imagine anyone whose name begins with W who might have an interest in reconciliation.
Harry's so naive as well, though, because, you know, he sort of comes back to this argument of, well, this is the truth, you know, this is the truth, and this is what really happened. And, you know, and without getting into my truth and your truth and their truth and our truth, it's just sort of so naive, isn't it? To just think that you can, you know, that there is no more political institution than the monarchy, you know. And I understand what Harry says, that, you know, this back briefing, this sources say this, sources say that, festered all this sense of paranoia and this collapse in their mental health that precipitated them leaving. You know, I get all that. But at the same time, I find it just so sort of weirdly naive and idealistic, the way he just goes, well, that's not what happened, I'm going to correct it. It doesn't think through. Like, to me, it was very obvious that the Sun story was a bit of bait. It was like they were prodding him. And he did exactly what they wanted and reacted. And it was like almost like they had the next stage of the trap in place, which was then to say, well, this just shows he can't be trusted. And
well, exactly. Yeah. So he's, exactly. And assuming that is true, and I guess we will probably never know definitively whether it's definitely what happened, but assuming for a moment that it is true, then, you know, I guess one way that we might see the evidence is if there are now not necessarily more meetings between Harry and Charles.
So let me bring in our royal mastermind, Prince Harry's biographer, Angela Levin. Angela, what do you make of this claim that it was Prince William's team, Kensington Palace, working in conjunction with Buckingham Palace to almost set this trap for Prince Harry, leak the information to the Sun newspaper, and then hope that he is going to have an over-the-top reaction, in effect sabotaging, blowing up the reconciliation?
When you pull back, here's what we're really seeing. Harry versus the palace. Harry keeps playing checkers while the palace plays chess. His emotional reactions make him predictable and manipulable. Meghan's influence. Meghan, whether directly or indirectly, shapes much of Harry's media strategy. And it's not working. U.S. weekly fluff pieces aren't strengthening Harry's credibility. They're undermining it. William's steadiness. William, by contrast, stays mostly silent, lets leaks do the work, and wins over the public by appearing dignified. His refusal to engage in mudslinging is actually making him stronger.
No, I don't think it was him at all, because the way he's coped with Harry's appalling behaviour is that he has to cut him out If you start trying to deal with all these things when you've had such a terrible time with a brother who you adored and was very close to, it brings it all back and makes you ill, actually, and feel dreadful. I don't think he would want to do that. And I'm sure if he talked it over with his wife, she would say to him, just keep out. He doesn't want to have anything to do with him. If you even say Harry in the room where he is, he gets you out of the room. He doesn't want to do it. And I think if you've got an emotion about someone, you don't want to keep letting it pour out. He wouldn't get over that for a long time. My idea and my thought, and I feel very strongly, it's Meghan who's doing this.
Yes.
She's the one who writes it. She actually makes it very difficult for him. She puts things in that don't exist because she wants him to stay under her hand. And that's, I think, and it's not sponging that's going on and stories, and they're trying to make a whole huge thing about it. They've got no time, but Meghan has. This is one of the things she really likes. She likes to pull people down, and she wants to make this very, very difficult for him. And I think that when Harry starts shouting, this is one of, it's happened so many times. He won't say that like he did, he wanted to be so kind and nice. It had a wonderful time. And then he goes out and talks to the BBC or something and
The
ruins
Guardian,
it straight away.
Us
And
Weekly.
Guardian, yes, it ruins it straight away. So it's there. I think he rings up Meghan. What should I do? What was terrible? I hate it. I get in a panic. And she will calm him down and tell him what to do. I mean, this is somebody who has a certain amount of mental issues and he needs a lot of help and he needs caring. It's no good trying to wind him up so that he shouts and do that. And I think that William, although he's furious with Harry, he did love him, and I don't think he wants to make him ill all the time, mentally ill about being damaged and not get what he wanted. Now, you don't have to be intelligent to say to your family, I would love to come back. How can I do it? And then go out and think that they're going to stop the whole way that the royal family are working now until they've sort of settled him down and everything's fine. How can you do that? He knows that Buckingham Palace is very, very slow about things. And that's what drove him mad when he and Meghan wanted to leave in 2020, when the late Queen Elizabeth said, we can't hurry up because it's complicated. Stay with us, please go. You want to do that work in another part of the world. I'd be very happy to help you and do all that, but we can't do things immediately. And that he knows that. He knows that all the way 6 years later.
100%. But Angela, can I just also put a counter argument too?
Sure.
Which is that let's just say for a second that the information to the Sun was leaked by Kensington Palace or Buckingham Palace, as Tom Sykes and Jack Royston seem to be suggesting.
I don't believe him.
No, but let's just say they did. Okay. Would there really be anything wrong with that, given all they're doing is correcting the record, which has already been leaked by Prince Harry to Us Weekly? Do you see what I mean? Because what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle told Us Weekly was total bull. Angela, it was total bull. It suggested that this meeting was like a Hollywood movie and that Harry walked into the room and burst into tears and Charles embraced him and it was like this great big reunion. It wasn't like that because Charles is still so hurt, so angry, and also so wary because of everything that has happened over the past few years. So all I'm saying is that even if what Jack Royston and Tom Sykes are saying is true, and I completely understand that you don't buy it, and I get that, but what I'm saying is that Harry should understand that if he is going to put out information via the media, via leaks to the media that are untrue, there's nothing wrong with someone correcting the record anyway. Do you get my point?
Andrew is a liability. Andrew remains a massive problem for the monarchy. William knows it and is using his influence to keep Andrew out of the spotlight. The media split. Even the press is struggling to manage the chaos. Papers like the Daily Mail are getting whiplash between attacking Harry, defending William, and stirring up drama to sell headlines.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. And that may be, but always we've seen for years and years and years that they don't answer back. They don't try and work out a story that they can put forward. The main thing is they don't discuss it at all. They don't want it to run and run and run and run because it's not about what they're trying to do, and maybe they've changed it, but I hope they haven't because you don't want them to sort of start saying everything and fighting back. And I think if you start correcting what's gone wrong, unless it's a very important fact, you can come up and make things awfully bad. I mean, you don't want to have a big row with the king blast over the top of the newspaper. It's not very nice, is it?
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying because, of course, Angela, then we move on to the other big debate which is going on. And this is in regards to Prince Andrew and his banishment by the king after these crunch talks between Prince William and King Charles in Scotland, as Prince Harry really does fail to drive them apart. Now, a lot of this, Angela, I did go into detail before I went on my break, and it's interesting seeing the media, the mainstream media, just catching up now, because of course there was this bombshell video outside the funeral of the Duchess of Kent where William was utterly livid, not only to be in shot with Prince Andrew, but if you see here, Angela, the fact that, look, he laughs, and then William puts his hand over his mouth. And the suggestion is that he may have told Andrew to not be smiling. Yeah, to shut up. But then William did turn around and speak to Catherine anyway. And if you look, finally the Mail picked up on this with this headline, keeping his royal distance and suggesting that William had issued this secret scolding to Andrew. But really there is a bigger point here. And the bigger point is very much that William doesn't believe that Andrew should be front and center at these events anyway. And Tom Sykes, he revealed or claimed that it had gone like this. Charles humiliated as he loses the war of Prince Andrew to Prince William. And he says Prince Andrew will never be photographed alongside Prince William again, as he is banned from all public-facing family gatherings. And yes, that includes Christmas. Now, Angela, before I get your reaction as to what's gone on, this is how Tom Sykes reported it with Jack Royston.
So did William and Buckingham Palace set a trap for Harry? Maybe. But honestly, they don't even need to. Harry is so reactive that he trips himself up without much help. The real takeaway is this. The palace machine thrives on patience and silence, while Harry thrives on emotion and oversharing. In a battle of endurance, there's no contest. The crown always wins. And meanwhile, Andrew lurks in the shadows, the York daughters lose out on opportunities, and William quietly cements his image as a steady, dignified heir. The monarchy may look messy in the tabloids, but when you strip it down, it's clear who's gaining ground, and it's not Harry,